Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the Business and Utilities Subcommittee. Today is Tuesday, February the 28th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, can you take the roll, please?
Representative Alexander. Burkhart. Clemens. Freeman. Hale. Holsclaw. Johnson. Marsh. Thompson. Vaughn. Vital. Zachary. Chairman Boyd.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Members, before we get started today, do we have any personal orders? Seeing none, let's go ahead and move on. We have a few housekeeping items. First up, item number 10, House Bill 280 has been rolled to the final calendar. Item number 12, House Bill 1067 has been taken off notice. Item number 4, House Bill 351 has been taken off notice. Item number 1, House Bill 1211 has been rolled 1 week. Item number 14, House Bill 799 has been rolled 1 week. And item number 2, House Bill 655 has been rolled to the final calendar. We do have a few bills we need to take up today, members. So that brings us on the calendar to item number 3, and that's House Bill 623 by Representative Jernigan. We have a motion. We have a second. Representative Jernigan, you are recognized.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. You were going down that list. I saw me go up, and I was ready to go. Okay, members, House Bill 623. Current law requires a seller of residential property to disclose the presence of a known sinkhole on the property and to provide for a record plat map with contour lines where the sinkhole exists. This bill removes the requirement to provide a recorded plat map and simply requires disclosing a sinkhole to exist on the property. The reason being is that most recorded plat maps, especially in older homes, did not include contour lines or sinkhole information because the information was not available to be tracked at the time. So it becomes impossible to meet the definition of a sinkhole during any contract dispute. It creates an unfair burden that can't be met. So we're simply taking one part of the definition of sinkhole in this area to redefine it. For that, I'll answer any questions, Chairman.
Thank you, sponsor, for that explanation. Members, you've heard the explanation. Are there any questions for the sponsor on this bill? If not, members, we are voting to send House Bill 623 to full commerce. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Sir, your bill is on its way to full commerce.
Thank you, Chairman.
Members, that brings us to item number 5, and that's House Bill 1290 by Representative Parkinson. We have a motion. We have a second. Representative Parkinson, can you confirm the amendment, drafting code?
Yes, sir. 004430.
That's what I'm showing too. And does the amendment, we have a motion, we have a second. Does that make the bill? Or
It does.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and put it on the bill then. Members, we're voting to put the amendment, drafting code 4430 on the bill. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Sir, we are back on the bill as amended. You are recognized for explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee. This is a cleanup bill, both literally and figuratively. The problem is, while in discussion with the Director of Cosmetology Board, we identified a problem. A few years back, we passed legislation that said individuals who wanted to become commercial braiders had to have 16 hours of sanitation training. The problem is there was no way to verify that those certified actually got the training. Here's the solution. House Bill 1246, the bill requires that the 16 hours of sanitation training be provided by a licensed cosmetology school or natural hair school licensed by the state of Tennessee. And with that, I move passage.
Thank you for that explanation, sponsor. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
A few years ago, we did something with hair braiding. Did we unlicense them or deregulate them? There was something that we did. Can you clarify that for us?
Yeah, we made it so that they are certified hair braiders, but they have to have 16 hours of sanitation training. But so when they go out and get the 16 hours of sanitation training, nobody knows where they're getting the 16 hours of sanitation training from. Cosmetology Board doesn't know. So what this does, and this is in consultation with the director of the Cosmetology Board, it says that you go get your 16 hours of training through a cosmetology school or a natural hair school so that we can verify that you actually got it.
Okay. Representative Holsclaw?
Thank you, Chairman. And my question would be, is there not some kind of software database or license that they track this?
No, sir. It's just a certification. It's just a certificate that says you've had 16 hours of sanitation training and you're a braider, basically.
Who issues that certification?
The school, whoever, the place that they went to get their certification from. It can be anybody, basically.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Mm-hmm.
Members, Speaker Marsh, you recognized.
What's entailed in sanitation training? What exactly is that?
Representative Parkinson, you recognize.
Thank you, sir. So that's in making sure that you understand the conditions of the scalp, making sure that if you see breaks in the scalp or cuts or bleeding, you're not transferring some communicable disease to somebody else's scalp. Make sure that you keep your combs clean. Like if you go in the barbershop right now, they keep their combs and clippers in sanitation in a blue liquid sometimes or under a heat lamp, and that's what this is.
Speaker Marsh?
Are the folks in this business okay with your legislation?
Representative Parkinson?
Thank you, sir. I hadn't had anybody to come back and say anything about it, but the Cosmetology Board is okay with it.
But have the people that actually do the braiding, have you talked to them in their group?
Well, my daughter's a braider. I talked to her, and she's okay with it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Members, do we have any other questions for the sponsor? Now, Representative Parkinson, I appreciate your clarification here, because actually coming into this, I thought we had completely done away with any requirement for hair braiding, and I thought you were taking us back a few steps.
No,
but
sir.
it sounds
No.
like they're already required to get 16 hours. This
sir.
just clarifies how they get it done.
Yeah, and this is only so that the Cosmetology Board can actually verify that they had the sanitation training.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate the explanation. Members, anything else? If not, we are voting to send House Bill 1290 to full commerce. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Sir, your bill's on its way to full
Thank you, sir.
commerce.
Thank you, committee.
Next up is item number 6. That's House Bill 750 by Representative Powell. We have a motion. We have a second. And Representative Powell, it looks like you do have an amendment.
I do. It's drafting code 4542.
That's what I'm showing as well. We have a motion. We have a second on the amendment. Do you want to explain the amendment, or does it make the bill?
It makes the bill.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that on the bill. Members, we're voting to put Amendment 4542 on House Bill 750. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Sir, we are back on the bill as amended, and you are recognized for explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as amended, this amends the Tennessee Condominium Act to add two important new provisions. Defines reserve study. A reserve study is an analysis of the remaining useful life of estimated replacement costs of condominium common elements. The purpose of the study is to provide condo owners with information to plan and fund reserves on a yearly basis to maintain common elements without the need for special assessments. The definition sets for a standard for the reserve study and requires nationally certified reserve specialists or engineers or architects who are licensed. Second, the bill requires that any board of directors for a condo association which oversees common elements with an aggregate replacement cost of $10,000 or more must conduct a reserve study every 5 years to assess and plan for and repair or replace common elements. If the board does not conduct a reserve study, it must complete one on or before January 1st, 2025, which we thought was a sufficient date to get this done, and then it must be updated every 5 years. The purpose of the bill is to protect Tennesseans living in condos, particularly high-rises, so they have information to plan and reserve funds to basically preserve for the useful life of the building. It does not mandate funding the reserve account. It is intended to provide condo owners with information to make the best decisions for their respective communities. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion.
Thank you for that explanation, sponsor. Members, do we have any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Zachary, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Powell, so how would this have any application to if I own 7 condos in Loudoun County and I have my own HOA, I have the 7 condos built, I have those HOAs, they're all connected. Would I be required to participate and get a study, which I've been told a study is fairly expensive?
Representative Powell.
So you would, so I understand you're saying you own the entire condo building?
Chairman Zachary.
Yeah, so if you've got, because we have many of these in Loudoun County that I know of, where there's a developer who he goes in, he buys a piece of property, he builds 7 or 8 condos, and then he forms an HOA. He maintains ownership of the HOA, and then he has 7 renters that move in. And so in reading this bill, I was concerned that this would apply to him because obviously he doesn't want to pay thousands of dollars for a study because he built those, he owns them, he maintains them, and so there'd be no need for him to pay whatever fee there is for a study, which I've been told can be a couple $1,000s.
Representative Powell.
So the bill does require folks every 5 years to have a study. It does not lay out, I know you mentioned cost, it could hopefully do that in a more affordable manner, but the hope is to protect all the condos. We have a lot of different, residents understand the specifics of what you're talking about. But, it's in broad application as far as the way it's laid out in the bill.
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how much on average would a study be?
Mr. I'm happy to, if we want to go out of
Representative
session, I know there's somebody here that might be able to answer that with the Community Association Institute. Could maybe speak to
Representative
that.
Powell, we don't have them on the list. Unfortunately, they cannot testify. If it sounds like we might need some further explanation on this. If you don't mind, would you want to roll this a week and we'll come back and revisit this next week?
Happy to do that.
Okay, without objection, House Bill 750 roll. Representative Powell, 1 week?
1 week.
1 week. Do I need to clarify that? Okay. Okay, just to clarify, legal wanted us to clarify here that the amendment will be traveling with the bill, so it's on there. So next week when you come back, it will be on there. All right, next up is item number 7, and that's House Bill 1275 by Chairman Russell. We have a motion, we have a second, and Chairman Russell, I don't see any amendments, so you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 1275 exempts retired law enforcement officers with good standing from certain training that security guards must have, except for de-escalation training. But they have to be serving as a law enforcement officer for 20 years before they can be exempt from the certified training for security guards.
Thank you for that explanation, sponsor. Members, y'all have heard the explanation. Representative Clemens, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what are we allowing these former law enforcement officers to do? Be security guards?
Chairman Russell.
So if a law enforcement officer that's been retired for 20 years or more in good standing, they don't have to complete all the training that security guards have to complete at this time due to the fact that they've already got most of that training in their prior years, and they've had to attend the yearly in-service, which is 40 hours for every year that they was a law enforcement officer, except for I left the de-escalation training in the bill where they have to complete that before being the security guard.
Representative Clemens.
And so is there anything in here that says the amount of time that they could have been retired just because they have 20 years? If they're retired for 10 years, can they still forgo this? Or is there a certain amount of time there, a retirement window that would allow them to fall into?
So
Chairman Russell.
So this just says 20 years. There's no amount of time as far as a 10-year window or any of that. It says 20 years.
Representative Clemens.
So if somebody served as a law enforcement officer from the age of 25 to 45 and they're retired for 15 years, then they could just become a security guard and this would still apply?
Chairman Russell.
They could, but I mean, we can defer to legal and see if they have any other kind of training.
We will hear from legal. Members, we're going out of session. State your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Garrett with the Office of Legal Services. In response to Representative Clement's question, there is a requirement that they serve for 20 years and then retired in good standing. That's the only qualifier there. But to your point, to your other question, would you mind repeating that, please?
Representative Clemens.
My other question was, does this only apply for any certain amount of time after their retirement? I understand if they're retired to 20 years in good standing, but then they could be retired for 10, 15, 20 years and then want to be a security guard. Do they still fall under this legislation?
Doug, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It provides no other clarification relative to the gap that may exist between the time they retire in good standing and the time this would apply.
Representative Clemens, any follow-up? If not, members, we're going back into session. We are back on the bill. Members, any further questions for the sponsor of the bill? Representative Clemens, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got concerns, and I understand the purpose of the bill and the intent, but if this goes out, I would ask the sponsor to consider creating a specific window of time there under which they would qualify for this, because, as you know, training evolves. You're yourself a former law enforcement officer, and things might change in a certain period of time. So I just want to take that into consideration.
Chairman Russell, you recognize.
Absolutely. I'll be glad to come and chat about it. And, these law enforcement officers that would become security guards, there won't be enforcing law. They'll just be keeping the peace as far as making sure everything's good in a certain location, not necessarily arresting anybody or writing citations or anything of that nature. And I thought it was pretty important that they do have to do the de-escalation training simply in case they're put in a position they see something happening.
Members, any further questions? Chairman Russell, I will say I really like your bill. I can't imagine that anyone would learn anything through security guard training that they wouldn't have learned in 20 years on the job training. So I'm supportive of every bill. Members, we're voting to send House Bill 1275 to full commerce. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Sir, your bill is on its way to full commerce.
Thank you.
Next up is item number 8. That's House Bill 167 by Representative Butler. We have a motion. We have a second. Representative Butler, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. And I would be remiss if I didn't use the word simple in this bill, and it really is simple. Under current law right now, a child under the age of 18 cannot possess tattoo paraphernalia, however they can buy it, which really doesn't make any sense to me. So what this bill does is kind of cleans that up and makes it illegal for a person under the age of 18 to purchase tattooing paraphernalia and piercing paraphernalia. And so you would need to be over the age of 18 to purchase either one of those or be in possession of them. So it kind of closes the gap up in the law. And with that, I renew my motion.
Thank you, sponsor, for the explanation. Members, do we have any questions? Representative Freeman, you recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an oddly specific bill. Where'd this come from?
Representative Butler.
This bill actually came from a constituent that is in the tattooing business.
Representative Freeman.
Fair enough.
I'm glad you asked that, Representative Freeman. I was actually gonna ask him where this came from. It is very specific. So, members, if there's no further questions for the sponsor, we are voting to send House Bill 167 to full commerce. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 167 is going to full commerce. Next up is item number 9, and that's House Bill 165, again by Representative Butler. We have a motion. We have a second. Representative Butler, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Committee and Chairman. I'm sure many of you have seen the number of dogs in businesses that many times are not true service animals. And this bill was brought to me by what Forrest Gump would refer to as a best good friend, whose daughter ended up getting a service animal, and they spent $15,000 buying a service animal. And I was educated in the process of what goes into a service animal. So more times than not, a service animal does not even begin training till they're a year old, and many times train for another year before an individual gets that dog. So not to mention the cost of actually purchasing the animal, but the time that is invested with the individual that dog is going to serve, it takes a lot of time. So most of the time, by the time that dog is born, it's probably 3 years before that animal is actually able to provide those services truly. So the problem is many times businesses, I think, get abused by people claiming to have service animals. You know, they've got a little poodle they're carrying in their arms going into the grocery store, and, you know, dadgum good and well, that's not a service animal. And they're abusing the fact that many businesses are restricted in asking, is that truly a service animal? They're allowed to ask a couple of questions. Is that a service animal, and what service does that animal provide is pretty much all that can be asked. So what my bill does is gives a little bit of protection to the business owner as well as the person that has a true service animal in holding those people accountable that abuse that privilege, to charge them with a crime if that animal is found to not be a true service animal, or it causes damage to that business. They will be held accountable for the repairs at that business. So it does two things. One, it protects the business owner, and two, it protects people that actually have service animals. So with that, I renew my motion.
Representative Butler, I appreciate that explanation. Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Yes. Thank you for bringing this and trying to clarify. As I'm reading through it, I don't see where it clarifies what is a service animal, because I think part of the problem that I've seen is that you can, you know, get online and have someone certify as an emotional response dog, which is actually a valid thing. I know many soldiers that struggle with PTSD that have animals that help them calm down when they start to have emotional issues. But I see where it says that if you falsely misrepresent, but I mean, how is this solving the problem if we're still going to have the same service animal certification? Because I don't think it addresses it in here.
Well,
Representative Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you. My original intent was to require a certification to be worn on the dog that would be issued by the state of Tennessee. And I think that after working through legal, there's some legal issues there with the ADA requirements to try to require a identification or certification and require a specific amount of training to be provided for these dogs, because people that have service animals have invested tens, if not $20,000, $30,000 in these service animals, not to go through the fact that the blood testing that's been done when that dog is born to make sure that they're going to not have any deficiencies or defects in that dog before they even start training them. So this simply is just trying to protect the business owner in conjunction with the folks that truly need a service animal. So we have a very narrow window of what we can and can't do under federal ADA requirements there. So you are allowed to ask them what that service animal does and what service they're providing for you, but that's pretty much all you can ask as a business owner.
Representative Freeman.
So I just want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly. It does not define what is and isn't a valid service animal. It just says that if someone is just completely making it up and they buy the vest for their dog, if you ask and they have, even if it's a bogus certification, that still counts. This is only if they are just completely misrepresenting the fact that it's a service animal. Is that a fair estimation?
Representative Butler, you recognized.
Yes. Okay. And I failed to bring up earlier, this bill does have an amendment on it that actually clarifies two of those things. And it actually adds some verbiage to the bill.
Representative Butler, we do not show an amendment on this, so if you have one, we're going to need you to roll this a week and come back and see us next week.
I don't think you.
Okay, so you're certain that you intended to have an amendment? All right, so
legal added amendment to the bill to clarify some language in the bill would actually strengthen it.
Stand by for just a minute here.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Do you actually have an amendment with it? Do you actually have an amendment with the drafting code on it, or are you using that term loosely like when you were drafting it, they amended it?
I have the drafting code.
Okay, so we're going to roll this. Members, without objection, House Bill 165 is rolled 1 week. And Representative Butler, we will see you here next week.
Thank you.
Okay, members, that brings us to item number 11, and that is House Bill 814. Representative Davis. We have a motion. We have a second. Representative Davis, it looks like you do have an amendment. Can you verify that drafting code for us?
I could if it was in my packet. So unfortunately, I don't have it. Hang on. 2187,
No, try again.
3173?
Do you see a 4494?
No, I do not.
It should be on the bottom right.
I don't see one. I just,
Stand by just a minute. We're going to have legal run down there and take a look at
okay.
it.
Because I don't show that one. I don't show that. That one's actually for a different. I don't have one. See, I've just got my thing.
What's your bill draft number?
It's 3173.
Yeah, that's your bill number. I don't want to go
Yeah.
through your things.
I don't have a copy of it. I apologize. Can I see it?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I apologize. We made packets for all of y'all, and I didn't put my stuff back together appropriately.
Members, we're going to take a 1-minute recess.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All right, members, we are back in session, and sponsor, you've had a moment to look at that. Can you verify the drafting code?
Yes, sir. Thank you for indulging me. It's 4494.
That is what I'm showing as well. Do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion, we have a second. And sponsor, is that a minor amendment, or does that make the bill?
It's minor, yes, sir. It just clarifies some language. They wanted to ensure that food truck was substituted by using mobile food unit.
Okay,
And
members,
just some of those verbiage.
you've heard the explanation of the amendment. We're going to go ahead and vote on that. We're voting to put Amendment 4494 on House Bill 814. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Ma'am, we are back on your bill as amended, and you are recognized for explanation.
Well, thank you very much. What this bill attempts to do is, with these mobile food units, you do have to get a license, and those incorporated in that licensing, you have to have fire inspections. And so for some of those mobile food units that operate in numerous locations, this, by the creation of a state fire permit, it allows for you to be inspected 2 times instead of having to go to all of these multiple local locations to be inspected. It does not change any of the fees that are associated with that. It actually creates an additional fee for that state permit. And so in the local fire permitting process, you're only inspected 1 time a year. However, with this state fire permit, you would be inspected twice a year. So it's actually creating more safety and security with regards to those mobile food units. And I do have some individuals here to speak on this issue if you're interested in asking any more specific questions.
Okay, let's do that. Actually, we're going to go out of session. And I'd like to invite up Megan Forbes from the Institute of Justice and Jamie Daniels. If you ladies could come up and just be sure when you sit down, if you'll make sure your microphone is turned on and state your name for the record. And you're each recognized, and we will cut you off. You have about 3 minutes each, and whichever one of you wants to get started, go ahead.
I'm Jamie Daniels.
Make sure your microphone is turned on.
There we go. I'm Jamie Daniels Joe. I'm with the Nashville Food Truck Association. Chairman Boyd, Representative Davis, and members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. I'm honored to speak on behalf of small business owners across Tennessee. I do not need to tell you the amount of undue burdens that small business owners face daily, especially during the current economic state. I'm here today, however, to ask for some relief in one small area, a small change that can make a big difference in the lives of thousands of small business owners. Currently in Tennessee, mobile food vendors must be permitted in every single municipality in which we serve. This means if I want to serve in 5 different towns, I have to obtain 5 different permits. It also means that I must obtain a fire inspection for each of those municipalities as well. While our health inspections are recognized statewide, our fire inspections are not. For me to be inspected, I must close my business and travel to each of these municipalities on different days, which means a loss of revenue for my business and lost wages for my employees. Every time I am required to get a different fire permit, I am forced to close my doors for the day. For those of us that own multiple units, the impact is doubled. It is important to note that we are not asking you for deregulation. We are only asking for smart regulation. Everyone wants to be safe, especially when it comes to fire safety. But our current fire inspection process just simply does not make sense. Inspections are generally conducted the first of the year when most of our permits expire. Therefore, we're often not inspected again for an entire year. Some are stringent, while others are very lenient. There's very little consistency when it comes to our fire inspections. We are merely asking for safe and streamlined standards that are sensible to conduct business in Tennessee. We are mobile vendors, therefore we need to be able to travel to our customers daily in order to make a living. While we would still be required to obtain all of the individual mobile food vending permits from local governments, this one gold standard fire permit would alleviate the burden of having to close our doors repeatedly during business hours, and it would give the peace of mind that there was top-level safety standards being followed. On a personal note, my business was recently invited to attend a very large festival in East Tennessee that would have been financially lucrative for my family. However, the permitting process of having to drive 4+ hours in a food truck just to have my 5th fire inspection of 2023 and return home before even confirming the event led me to have to turn down the opportunity. In closing, I hope that you will understand how this one simple change could make such a big impact on thousands of small businesses. Please do what's right and help us make mobile food vending safer and more sensible in Tennessee.
Thank you, Jamie. Megan, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Megan Forbes. I'm Senior Legislative Counsel at the Institute for Justice. We're a nonprofit public interest law firm that works to protect civil liberties. We're here in support of this bill. Research shows that food trucks offer many economic benefits in their communities and accessible opportunities for entrepreneurship. And we think that this strikes the right balance between making sure cities can address local problems and streamlining regulation and taking a smart approach to regulating food trucks for fire safety. So we thank you for considering this important issue, and I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, ladies. And so, members, do we have any questions for Ms. Forbes and Ms. Daniels? I saw Representative Freeman's hand first.
Thank you, and welcome back to Tennessee. Under these list of restrictions, are any of them more or less restrictive than any municipalities require of you today?
Ladies, you're recognized.
I think the fire safety.
The 7 requirements for the fire marshal permit, are they more or less restrictive?
Go ahead. I believe they're going to be a little bit more restrictive depending on the level of the inspectors. I mean, so that's what we're looking for is a gold standard top of the line inspection through the state of Tennessee with state fire marshals, the most up-to-date current fire code. As I understand it currently, in the state of Tennessee, municipalities are allowed to operate under any fire code within 6 years of the current fire code. So if I am getting inspected in one town that may be operating on a code that was implemented, from 5 years back, dated 5 years back, and another one that's a 2022 fire code, obviously one's going to be more up to date and a little bit more current. Even though they're both legal, this one would be the most current, up to date.
Representative Freeman.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you. This is a much better bill than the one we discussed last year, and this actually makes a bunch of sense. So thank you for both the service you provide as a food truck owner and for everybody else here. Thank you, but also for clarifying this law. Thank you.
Speaker Marsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, the state fire marshal is going to issue the permit. How hard is it to schedule a audit or a inspection, and where do you go to get that?
So each municipality is different, so it all depends on where we're going. We have to schedule those depending on when their local municipalities are available. So we still have to close our doors and go to every municipality. We have to go to the fire departments in each governing area, and depending on how many inspectors they have available, you know, it may say, okay, it takes a couple weeks to go down there, and you have to schedule it a few weeks out, which means in the meantime, you can't get permitted. So if there's an event and I need to serve at it, I can't, unfortunately, until I've been inspected. So it's totally different for every municipality in Tennessee.
Speaker Marsh.
But under your new proposed legislation, it will be twice a year, correct?
Jamie.
Where do you go for that twice a year? Same place?
I believe that's up for would you like from me?
Megan.
Representative Marsh, my understanding from the fiscal note is that the Department of Commerce plans to have inspectors go to certain regions throughout the year. The Department of Commerce is empowered to create the process under the bill, so it would be up to the department to make
Speaker
that
Marsh,
decision.
anything else? Members, Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This is just a comment. If you ever need to go to East Tennessee, I make it that trip every week, up and back. So you're welcome to ride with me.
Thanks.
Members of the committee, do we have any further questions? Well, it's a matter of fact, we're out of session right now, Representative Burkhart. Yeah, appreciate your enthusiasm. We'll get to that. Do we have any other Representative Chairman Holsclaw, you recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is what does this cost you when you do this permitting process each time?
Jamie, you recognize.
They're all different. So between $150 to $250, $50, it all depends. Every municipality has a different fee that they charge, but most of the fees are all bulked into the food truck permit. So I would like to clarify that we would still be paying those same exact fees. This would be an additional fee so that we would not have to be closing our doors multiple times a year, and we would have consistency with safety standards.
Thank you.
Members of the committee, any questions for our ladies speaking with us today? If not, we're going back into session. Ladies, appreciate it coming today. And members, do we have any questions for the sponsor of the bill, Chairman Zachary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, you're looking at me like it's my first bill, but I actually do have a serious question on this one, I promise.
Okay, thank you.
The town of Farragut just asked me to confirm that this in no way would impact their ability to permit a truck when it comes into the town of Farragut.
Oh,
Farragut's
absolutely
on
not.
the bill.
No, this is...
Representative Davis, you're
I
recognized.
apologize. Thank you, Chair. No, that doesn't. They still, for every municipality or every locale, that's still, whatever their permitting process is, still remains. This is in addition to.
Got it.
So it's permissive. If you have multiple food truck operations that you want to be able to then utilize that state permitting process so that way you have met that standard for fire inspection.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Vaughn.
Thank you, Representative Davis. I believe the word to cover it is you're streamlining the process.
Thank you, sir.
We love the word streamlining. So whenever you can come in here and tell us that this new process is going to streamline the delivery of services for the public and the folks that you're advocating for, that's always just a helpful hint. We're just throwing that out there to you.
Representative Davis, you have anything else?
No, I would appreciate your support.
Members, do we have, you know what, Representative Burkhart a moment ago was so polite and when in full decorum, he asked to be recognized, members, to call the question. So Representative Burkhart, if you'd like to be recognized again. Okay, members, the question has been called. Without objection, we are voting to send House Bill 814 to full commerce. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Sponsor,
Thank you
we'll
very
see you full
much.
commerce next week. Members, that brings us to item number 13, and that's House Joint Resolution 119 by Representative Fritz. Has anybody seen Representative Fritz? Members, without objection, we will roll that to next week's calendar. And if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.